Hi book friends, this is Kat. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, it is my wrap up for April, and this is the second wrap up that I'm doing. Earlier in April, I had a mini wrap up. I did read a total of 4 books this second half of April, and let's go ahead and just see the breakdown of the ratings. I had 1 2.5-star read, 1 3-star read, 1 4.5-star read, and 1 5-star read. So let's go ahead and talk about those books. After I talk about these books, I'm also going to talk about my husband's reads, and then last I'm going to talk about my books that I've read for Katie's readathon this past month. I'll just tell you what books that I've read for each of the prompts. So my 2.5-star read is The Secret of the Andes by Anne Nolan Clark. And this is part of the vlog that I did for the country that I was supposed to read about. So this is about a Inca boy who lives in the Andes Mountains. So the country was Peru. And basically he is learning how to take care of the ancient ways of the Inca, because that is part of his heritage, and there is a little bit of a mystery that goes on with it. In my vlog, I did tell more about this book and my thoughts about it, but I just wanted to mention that it was a 2.5-star read, so wasn't quite a favorite of mine. Though it did win a Newbery Award, but it was just not a book for me. For my 3-star read, it is The Unexpected Mrs Polyfax, and this is also part of the vlog that I did, and it was for the country Albania. And this is a first in a series, so mystery, but this is essentially about a woman who is 60 plus years, and she is a widow and her kids are all grown, and so she decides that she wants to become a spy and basically is sent on this mission that her role is not supposed to be dangerous, but she ends up finding herself in a more dangerous role. So there was a few like medical things in there I just didn't like, I guess. I'm just very queasy when it comes to talks about certain things. So, and I think there was something with like language. Anyway, more thoughts in that video about this book. My 4.5-star read was Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Deese. And this book I absolutely loved. It didn't get a full 5 stars, but essentially this is about a single woman who is wanting to adopt, and she wants to adopt as a single woman, but yet she meets someone and is struggling to decide if this adoption route is for her or if she might want to take a different path. So this book is very heartwarming. I will say that the whole process of adoption can be a very lengthy process. It could be a very heartbreaking but also heartwarming process. So I really liked reading about this story, this woman as she is wanting to go through with this path of adoption. And one thing I didn't really like was the romance at the beginning. It was not my cup of tea. I didn't really like how it kind of started. I didn't really like the characters that much, and they weren't like bad characters. It was just not something that I felt that I personally enjoy. But as the book continues, I definitely had a change of heart. There's also some like family issues in this book as well, but it did have some moments to where I nearly teared up. So very emotional, and I would highly recommend this. Nicole Deese doesn't disappoint. I've only read 2 other books from her, and sometimes when I feel like the book may not be for me, I always try to continue it because the faith element in her books are great. And I gave this a 3 for faith elements because that is such a center in this book. And Nicole has a very gifted way of writing that in and make it a little relevant, if that makes sense. So I ended up really enjoying this book, and that's why it's a 4.5 stars. I'm sorry that was lengthy, but check this book out. It is really good. That's definitely an author I can now say is on my favorites list. Okay, my 5-star read, and this one came as a surprise because this is the first book I've read from this author, but this is My Heart Remembers by Kim Vogel Sawyer. I have heard about this author before, and I picked up one of her books from a Goodwill, but I realized it was a second book in the series, and this was the first book. So this was my Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge book because the prompt for the Montgomery prompt was to read a character with red hair, and so she has clearly red hair. So this story follows 3 siblings, and they go through the orphan train down to Missouri, and they all get separated. And basically the oldest sibling is trying to find her younger siblings, and it's that whole journey. So this is another emotional read, heart-touching. It starts off sad, and the whole book you're reading through the 3 perspectives and how they grew up in the families that they were chosen to live with. And I will say that the faith element is also very strong in this book. I gave this book a 3 rating for the Christian faith, and there's just so much packed in here. And if you are a historical fiction lover, I think you would really enjoy this book because it does take you through a point of history that we don't hear much about, and that is the orphan trains that happen here in the United States. You also hear a lot about during the Gilded Age through the points of view of just children working, and basically how laws were back then that didn't protect children because they were forced to work in these horrible conditions, and because they were children, they were taken advantage of. And so you are getting that part of history, and I just loved this book. I love sibling books a lot. Family's a big deal for me, and so I can very much identify with this, and like even the older sister who's trying to keep her promise to find her younger siblings. And so it is also an emotional read. Yeah, I just love every bit of this, and I can't wait to get into the second book. And I am very curious in this author now. I want to read more from her, and I'm just hoping that she becomes a favorite. So okay, those were my reads for the month, and it ended on a great note. And now I'm gonna go over my husband's picks, and then we'll transition into my readathon books. But if you saw my TBR game, I did briefly go over what my husband did read, and that was The Eagle's Claw by Jeff Shara, and he really thoroughly enjoyed this book. He didn't give me a rating at all. He has a favorite author, and that is Jeff Shara, so he did complete it, and he gets another reward. That's what he read, in case you missed it in the TBR game. Okay, so now I'm looking through my Shower Me with Flowers little page that I made, and I'm just going to go down the list of prompts. So this says a character who is royalty. For that, I read Secrets of the Andes, so I ended up switching that prompt out because I didn't read my original book, but there is a character in here that is a royalty. The next one is White Roses, a book with a married couple, and for that I put down a different book from my original book, but I put Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Deese. There is a married couple in this book. The next one is Double Delights, and that's a book with a wedding. And so for that, I also picked a different book for this one for my original list. And the book I chose was My Heart Remembers, because there is a wedding that takes place in this book. Number 4 is Sunflowers, a Fortune 400, or a character who is wealthy and in society. For that, I did read Lady Susan, and that was from my original list. Number 5 is a Hydrangea, and that is a character who is heartless or a villain. And I did choose my original pick, which was Shadow by Kara Swanson, because there is a villain in this story, and happened to be a villain that I wasn't expecting. So number 6 is Lantana, a character goes on an adventure, and I actually swapped this book out and I put on the Unexpected Mrs Polyfax, because in a way she does go on an adventure. The next one is Carnations, and it's a mother/daughter or a mother/son story. And for this one, I put Before I Called You Mine. The next one is The Lincoln Roses, and it's to read a romance. And for that one, I DNF'd the book that I originally put, but I will stick on Before I Called You Mine, because it clearly is a romance. The next one is Peonies, a flawed character, and I did read the original book, which was Lady Susan. And last but not least, Violet's a hero who doesn't claim to be one, and I did read Shadow by Kara Swanson, which was my original pick. So that was my wrap up, and I hope that you guys got some great recommendations from this video. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you in another video. Bye guys!